Good evening to the few of us who are here. Teresa Frisch with we have new folks listening out in the community and online. So what we are having is our usual twice a month remote viewing practice discussion, open to the public. Anybody can stop in. You don't have to be a remote viewer. If you want to learn about remote viewing, we're going to be reviewing our sessions and talking about some methodology. Any viewers welcome, any methodology is welcome. People learning at home on scratch pads who maybe read about it in a book are welcome. And we're very informal. So with that, I'd like to introduce Lynn Buchanan, my mentor and mentor of everyone here, handed down through our lineage as control remote viewers. Lynn worked for U.S. Military Intelligence Unit Stargate and has been practicing remote viewing in the civilian sector as a trainer and in operations for I won't reveal how many years that's been. I'll let him do that.
Ages and ages and ages.
Ages and ages. Are you older than dirt? Is that what you're trying to say?
Mr. and Mrs. Hill live next door to me, and I'm older than the Hills.
I see. All right. Well, I don't know if any of you picked it up from your emails, but this week we're doing something just a little different. Everybody who's here at the moment turned in sessions, and I can't share them because then you'll all start having crossing each other's perceptions, and if you were in operations, you wouldn't even know that you were on the same team, or that's the point. What we would be doing is, if you were in operations, you'd be turning in sessions, and the customer and I would review them if I were the project manager or the analyst. And if the customer thought that there was something there that they wanted to take a closer look at, we would retask the viewer to tell us more or give us more information about their perception. You don't retask a viewer on someone else's perception, because if they didn't get it, now there are some intricacies of tasking that you can retask from, but that's a little beyond what we want to do here today. So my goal is to just have some discussion about retasking, and then in 2 weeks we'll be having, I think I just put up the wrong date. September 18th is not when we will be bringing these sessions back. It is in October. On September 18th, you will be working another target if you choose, because all of this is voluntary just for practice. And then on October, somebody's got a calendar. I'm probably pretty dangerous at this point. The 18th is when we're getting together. Then we skip the 25th. And so it looks like October 2nd. So hopefully I'm getting that date right. And please, everybody correct me if I am wrong. So we're skipping 2 weeks from now. You're going to be doing another target. And then on October 2nd, we'll be looking at the feedback and seeing what you have for results for this target. Sometimes when you're in operations, things take a while. You have 2 or 3 retaskings, and I wanted to kind of give you all a feel for the delay in feedback, working more than one session, taking breaks, and anything else I'm stumbling over there, Lynn? But having this length of time in between, it would be like working operations, because even if you're operational, you still need to practice. And you might be working other sessions for other project managers. So we're doing several little exercises here mixed into one. And I would like to, and we've done some retasking just on a whim with our get-togethers, but I would like to remind you, for retasking in operations, which all of us train from minute 1 toward operations, so that maybe sometime we can actually use this unique tool to help people. write your retasking. I said for retasking structure, you know how you write front loading, and right at the top of your first page in the middle of it, you write your retasking, top of the first page, directly under your administrative section, exactly as it is given to you. So if I retask you on a perception or your sketch and I say, tell me more about or describe that which you say is, I want you to write exactly what I wrote in the middle of your first page, right under your admin section at the top. That's the only place you have to write it. And then do your session just the way you always would. And just because it's a retask session, now I've seen some people, it's been a couple of years, but they think that just because they're having a retask session, it's like an abbreviation and you're off on a little vacation and you don't really have to do a real session because, you know, you're already describing something that you started out and just, 2-3 lines and you're done. It is your session, you are in charge, but you're being asked for more information about this particular perception or sketch, and we want to see some results. And so that, and again, it's your session. You can use every P6 tool, every move command, whatever you think you need to do to get the job done. And with that, I'm going to shush for just a minute. And hey, Marco, good morning to you too. Anyway, Lynn, do you want to jump in there? Because this is all spur of the moment, and I planned it this way, just to give some exercise opportunity. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
Generally, a retasking, we've always just considered it as a new session. And like in the beginning, you had an entire target. And at some point in your session, you focused in on one part of it. Well, now then, you're doing an entire new session on that one little part of it to get more information. So, excuse me, generally, before using a different coordinate system than Teresa uses, we just had a number 2 at the end, and it showed that, hey, this is the second time we've done this target on the coordinates itself. But what you consider as a retasking, you go ahead and do a full session on that little part that was of interest to the project manager. It's just like, give you an example. The original target was a building, and you found a room. Okay, we'll retask you on that room. Now then, you've got a detailed target, which was a part of the original target. So she's right. Don't just say, 2 or 3 lines and then quit, because this gives you a chance to get extreme detail in your remote viewing. And I think if you go ahead and fill out an entire session on your retasking, you'll be amazed at how much detail and how much fine detail you can get in a remote viewing session. Anyway, it's if you just think of it that way.
I was going to say, I'm getting ready to finish the, it's always a good idea to review why we do, and for the My Target pool, I just pick different tags just because I grabbed them off a random number generator. But I do work with your coordinate system. So anyway, if you could please, so that people listening to the recording know why you do your target's coordinates the way you do them. Could you please give us an overview?
Oh, on just the standard CRV? Yeah. Generally, for practice targets, you would have, you don't want the coordinates to tell you anything about the target, because that's pollution. And so for a practice target, we have a 6-digit number, which is the date. Like today would be 130904. 13th year, 9th month, 4th date. And we do it in backward order like that so that every single coordinate is a higher number than a target done the day before. If you can go ahead and figure that out for yourself. But anyway, then we have another 6-digit number, which is your viewer number. And then the number of sessions you've done that day, because we database that, and then the number of times you've been tasked with that session. So like if you had one today, it would be 130904, and then my viewer number is 018. And so it put 018. I haven't done a session today, so it'd be my first session, so I'd put 01. And then this is the first time I've done this target. So my second set of 6 digits would be 018011. Then if I get retasked with it, I would still have the same date, and I would have 018012 because I'm being retasked with that same target. And we do this not because it has any meaning whatever. It has nothing, there's no magic about it at all. We do it so that we can database everybody's work. And doing it that way, it makes two 6-digit numbers fill us out with 6 fields in the database. And so we just do it for proper databasing.
Well, nothing like all my little markers up here that I'm seeing on the screen since I'm playing with the text. And then, if you were in operations, our retasking coordinates would change just a little bit.
In operations, what we have is a project number, and then your viewer number, and then the question number, and then the number of times you've been tasked with it. So we have like this could be project 980674, and my viewer number would be 018. I'm to view the answer for question 3, so it'd be 01803. First time I do it is 1. When I get retasked, it's a 2. If I get retasked again, it's a 3, and so on. So the only thing that actually changes is that in an operation, a customer will have many questions. So you give the project number, which doesn't tell the viewer anything about the target, and then your viewer number, mine would be 018. I'm to do question 3, 03, and 01. That way you have 2 6-digit numbers, and this follows the original format set by Ingo Swann when he would have geographic coordinates showing basically 2 digits for the degrees, 2 for the minutes, and 2 for the seconds of arc to give a geographic location, north and south, and then another line with 6 digits to show the east and west. And there's nothing magic about it. You don't have to do it that way. Like I say, we do it because it works wonders in the database when you keep track of viewers' works. Did that leave everyone confused?
We've gone over it enough, hopefully, but you never know when if something didn't sink in the first time, that it makes more sense the next time.
The thing is, they wanted to get away from geographic coordinates because after you've done, 100 sessions and so on, you begin to know that the more it gets toward 90 degrees north, the colder it's going to get, or south, and you start learning where around the equator the the oceans are and Europe is and so forth. So we found that geographic coordinates, after a while, will start polluting a viewer just as badly as though you just told them what the target was. And so they tried using random numbers and they worked. They tried using letters and numbers and it worked. They tried using words and it worked. And finally, as the database manager, I said, hey, since it doesn't matter, help me out here with the database. And so we started doing it that way.
So you're 018? No, 018.
I'm Agent 18.
Yep. And so then we are on our second session. God, my head's getting screwed up here. I'll just type in and try and do this at the same time. So second session, 02.
No.
No.
018. And how many sessions have I done today?
Right.
That has nothing to do with your target.
Right. So, and I don't know how many sessions you, the viewer, have done.
That's right. So the viewer would set their own.
So we'll go 0. Yep. Okay, and then second session on this target, right?
And a 2 for the retasking.
Yep.
Yeah. If you retask them again, they would end it with a 3, and so on. If you retask them more than 9 times, there's something wrong with the project manager, not the viewer.
Oh, that's nice. I understand. Okay, that was mostly for people who, you know, haven't worked with anything other than a random number generator TRN. So, and I'm not sure we have anybody here from that particular line of viewing. Yeah.
If I can go over just one simple little fact, because there are a lot of people out there who just really put a lot of voodoo into the coordinates. The reason for the coordinates, there are 2 reasons. One is to keep track of your target, and the other is to get your pen moving so that you will have your pen already moving when the ideogram comes up. Those are the 2 reasons for the target, for the coordinates.
Yeah, some people say that they just start out bang with an ideogram, and it makes so much more sense to have your pen moving, you know, and that kinetic energy going. And
doing an ideogram from a dead stop is kind of hard. Doing an ideogram when your pen's already moving and you just slide right on into the ideogram makes it very easy on the viewer.
No, I would just like to talk just for a second about taking your coordinates more than once. And boy, I'm getting a lot of feedback. Oh, Rich, there we go.
I think Richie may be trying to talk.
Yeah, I can't see that very well. Let me shift this over. Anyway, when we get a second, if you could talk about the folks who get all of their information about the target in one ideogram versus taking their coordinates more than once and getting what I think is maybe a little bit better sight contact before they proceed. But anyway, Richie, go ahead, late or early over where you are.
Yeah, I just wanted to just say, you look at the number there that you've typed in, 018021. Should that not be 012 because the tasking is the last number?
Like that 01 is the number of sessions I've done today. So if I've done 10 sessions today already, then when I sit down to do this session, it would be 018. What did I say? 10 sessions? 01811, because this would be my 11th session.
Yeah.
And that tells how many sessions. And the reason we have that is for analysis, so that we can find out where a viewer burns themselves out, so that we know when and how many times we can task them with a target, because you don't want to burn a viewer out. That's very important. So if I find out that 01805, and I do a really lousy session, and I do that repeatedly, then they would know, don't give me more than 4 targets a day, because if you do, you're going to burn 018 out. By the way, I've done 10 sessions in a day without burning out, and luckily never got past more than that.
Yeah, okay.
You there, Teresa?
I turned my mic off because of the feedback, so I'm steady talking to myself here. That's about par for the course. For Michael, I will look for your session. I have 4 different emails. I'm sure I probably have it someplace. And we're working on retasking and taking breaks. If you were in operations, or working for multiple project managers, you might have multiple sessions on the table at any given time that you're moving in and out of. So there's no feedback tonight. Everybody who wants to be retasked will be retasked. And on October 2nd, we'll come back and look at both sessions and retasking and see what everybody gets. And on a retasking, you know how you write your front loading in the center of the page, right under the administration area? When you're retasked so that everybody knows what everybody's doing, especially the analyst who's trying to follow along with multiple people, you write the retasking exactly as it is given to you in the middle of the first page, right? Just like you would front loading, right under your administration section. So if I send you retasking that says, describe that which you say is, or tell me more about that which you say is, or something like that, that's what you write in the middle of the first page, just like front loading.
And one of the things that you have to realize is that, especially in operations, the project manager does not know usually what's going on or what the target is. And so if they come back to you and they say, your target was a man-made, and you found a red shiny thing. I'm retasking you with the red shiny thing. That does not mean that the project manager is saying that it is there, or that it's not there, or that it's important. It's just something that caught the project manager's attention. And so when you get retasking, don't let the retasking pollute you into thinking anything. You keep neutral and keep an open mind. You've got to do that.
I love it when you jump in with those pearls. Anybody else have some questions? Of course, I can't say a word about your sessions. I happen to be the project manager, and I happen to know what the target is, and I happen to know what the feedback is. So anyway, can't share any of that yet. And in operations, might as well throw this in there for those folks who might be listening who have never sat in with us before, we work towards applications and operations from minute one. And that's what all the hours and hours of practice are for, so that you learn your own strengths and weaknesses. That's why Lynn really, really encourages databasing, so you can see where your strengths and weaknesses are. And that also helps a project manager who's trying to put a team together at some point. But in operations, you may never get feedback, or it may be very, very delayed, such as in a law enforcement case. If they're, as Lynn always says, they're so busy they just move on to the next one, and you know, you don't hear anything. Or if you have law enforcement who do have what they think is a successful outcome, you know, that it may take several years for that to actually go to trial. Well, they can't be disclosing anything preemptively, or a research project may need to be verified and published, so you can't talk about that for a while. So it may be a very long time before you get feedback. So that's one of the reasons that we use feedback as a training tool, so that you can learn, but it also gets you to the point where you have faith in yourself and faith in your work. And you can do that work without having feedback and mind candy, like as soon as you put down your pen.
Yeah, a lot of times, more times than I even care to admit, you'll do session after session, you know, and do a really good job, and you're really interested in the feedback and all. And the feedback, the customer says, "Oh, yeah, you did great, thanks." And that's your feedback. And that's where you try to make sure you're working for an extremely pushy project manager who's going to get in there and say, "That's fine, hell, I'm going to know what's going on." And so you really want a project manager that's going to get you the feedback. But even still, like Teresa said, the police have 40 more cases. They're moving on. No amount of push is going to get them to stop hunting for a missing child or something, and fill out a form telling how well you did on each perception. And so there are going to be times when you don't get feedback. And one of the things that we use the database for is by giving you practice targets that have feedback, and then keeping track of your every perception and finding out how good you are at colors, and how good you are at smells, and how good you are at taste and sizes and shapes and all that. We can say to a customer, this viewer is good at answering this kind of a question, and we can also say, we didn't get feedback, but we're certain that you kept up your track record because that's what you always do. And so if a viewer normally makes between 75 and 76% accuracy, and you don't get feedback, you can still be very comfortable with the fact that their track record shows that's what they're going to do. And you know, that's why we keep the database.
Here is, Janine had a question because she's learning at home and actually made remarkable progress over the last couple of years. So she's not an official PSI student, but this score sheet's in the 7th sense, Janine, and this is what Lynn uses, and we start scoring our sessions from minute one, summaries, and you go down through each of these, and yes, whether there is something at the site that matches up with any of them, you do it one at a time. And I won't try to get you to, right now, just scoring by itself, if you're not familiar with it, is plenty. And so yes, no, and maybe my tired, old, beat-up analogy of the seagull, but perhaps you have gull-like sounds or seagull sounds, or you had an AOL or something that made you think of seagulls. And If
Yeah,
you,
or there's something
out
that
there that,
that is probable, but there's no feedback.
right.
You can either say yes or you can say can't feed back. And when you score your session, since you can't feedback on those, you don't include them in your scoring. But like when do you start scoring themselves? Let's say that you're doing ideogram drills using targets, and you pull out a target face down, don't look at it, and you just do stage 1 and get the gestalts. If you notice, gestalts is not on here, but other is. And so let's say you do a bunch of ideograms and you get that there's land, water, man-made, and space, okay? And you turn the target over and you say, oh, there's land, water, and space, but there's nothing man-made here. You got 3 yeses in the other column, and either a 1 in the no column or 1 in the can't feed back, because somebody had to be there to take that picture. And so you can score it either way that way. But
I like the opportunity. Sorry, I jumped on you.
No, that's good.
I like the opportunity of the maybe, because like if your lens is zoomed out and it's a seashore picture, logically you know that there are seagulls at the seashore frequently, but you don't see any in the picture, but it's likely that there might be one, so you score it as a maybe. If your subconscious did good work, you're not beating it up. You're not inflating your scores, so you're not waffling, and because the maybes don't count in the total session score. But I like the fact that you're not, it's like telling a kid that they lied when they did not. They told you the truth. And just because, you didn't see it or whatever, and you punished them for it, that doesn't wash with me. And I really like that maybe feature, because it doesn't, if you're being honest with yourself, and if you aren't being honest with yourself, you're not growing, you're only hurting yourself. But if you're honest with yourself, it lets your subconscious know that you aren't chastising it. It might be there, and I think it helps you grow, and it will continue to do good work. But that's just my opinion. So.
Yeah, and Teresa said a minute ago that from the very beginning, we start you trying to do operational work. A lot of people, when they score their session, they'll say, oh, if it's not in the picture, then it must be wrong. No, there's that maybe. Maybe it's there, maybe it's not, because you're not supposed to be viewing the feedback picture. You're supposed to be viewing the target. When you get to operations, there's not going to be a feedback picture. There's going to be feedback information, and you're supposed to view the target, not whatever the report of the target is, And so don't make the mistake of saying it's either yes or no, and if it's not in the picture, then, oh, I must have gotten it wrong, because that's just not true. You're not being true to yourself, and like Teresa says, you're punishing a child for not knowing.
And that hurts when you're a little kid. And this is a model that I tweaked just because I'm trying to get people to stop in and just look on my website. And it's really hard from Lynn's model here, which we're all taught to use. But how do you teach somebody all that if they're just like doing a little drive-by? So I expanded it a little bit, and you can download this one off my website. But it kind of actually it looks a little like your eyes are going to cross. And there's a definition page that you can download with it. But it explains what is like some examples of these things. And it also lists all of the gestalts, just because if people read it, they're going to learn a little bit, and as they go, hopefully, and have like a bigger picture graph. So my scoring model is different than Lynn's in that it's a little more detailed for people who have absolutely never taken a look at any of this before. So that, and I broke it down by dimensionals and sensories and gestalt. So I don't know if that'll teach anybody anything by doing it that way, but it gave a little bit of an explanation rather than just putting up the raw data sheet. And let me just show you a couple of pictures, if I can, and it'll tell you, it'll explain what Lynn is saying about feedback images. Hopefully, if I can get the right one. Of course not. If I bring up that 8 Martinis article, though, put up with me for a minute. We're surfing. You get to look at my email for a flash. That's always exciting. Yeah, let's see here. This has, hopefully it was going to let me blow up or zoom in. I noticed what you get online these days for saying the word's blowing up. But this picture right here is the front of my school, York Center, and it's now an Apostolic church. But in a lot of training camps and research, this front of this building is going to be your main target. If you don't view and report on this right here, just a picture of this school, you're going to be told you didn't get the target. However, one of Jed Bendix's strengths is man-made. And I don't know if we can blow this up. I bet we can if I fool around with this just a little bit. On the side of this building, oh, where's the zoom tool? Surely we have one. Anyway, on the side of this building is, I don't, Lynn, what would you call this thing? It looks like a little cherry picker, and it's on an arm, a lift with a bucket where somebody stands in there, because I took these pictures when I was home.
Cherry picker is a good idea, yeah.
Cherry picker, but it's on an arm and it elevates. And Jed described this as being a man-made, which is yellow, huge, tall, thin, out of place, squirting, which is orchestrated. And that's, by the way, know your viewers. For Jed, orchestrated means coordinated, or rhythmic, or organized. So, and he's working, by the way, to expand his vocabulary. He's learned that he can't describe things as well as he would like to because he feels as if his vocabulary is limited. But anyway, orchestrated, it's squirting. Orchestrated soft blue-green, climbing or rising, which is ridged with the sound of snorting. The front-facing image does not show the lift-height piece of machinery with a cage for standing on the north side of the building. On the north side of the structure is a piece of machinery with a bucket. And actually, if you were to enlarge this, it says masonry on it. And this is a brick building. And if you know what it's like to repair brick or the mortar in between them, it makes the squirting stuff. And I suppose there would be an engine involved that would sound like snorting. But anyway, as a practicing student, if Jed didn't get the front of this building, he would be told he missed the target. But if he, and possibly he'd also be told that he doorknobbed and was zeroed in on this machinery off to the side. But it demonstrates that he has good sight contact. So he's a learning viewer. He was, instead of the actual target, which may be the structure, he was drawn to the motion of the man-made or the fact that he is proficient. It's something he knows about. And so he was drawn to report on that. But anyway, my whole point is his kid did good work. He's learning to get sight contact. He's learning structure. He's learning to describe. And he did. And I hate it that there are people out there telling viewers that they blew targets when they actually had good sight contact.
Right. Even more important than that, it shows that he did not go to the feedback picture. He went to the target.
Yeah.
And if you're ever going to do operations, I mean, if you can view a picture in an envelope and do it accurately, repeatedly, but that's all you can do, you've got a good parlor trick. But if you can go to the target and find out what's at the target and find out everything around the target and so on, even though it may not be in the feedback, that's where you're a useful viewer. You can find missing kids. You can find all kinds of stuff.
Here is another example of, I knew tonight we would just be teaching about whatever we ended up talking about, and it's all good. Here is a viewer. Let me bring this one up for you. Okay, so here's a target photo, and hopefully we can go back and forth between these. Oh, good, we can. How exciting. The wonders of modern information technology. And I'm just an idiot. Okay. Now let's see what we have here. I have to do it just a little differently because, of course, you know, am I so good at databasing? Oh, no. All right. Let's see if we can get rid of this and go back and forth. Okay. Oh, but now you're gonna. If I don't finish this, you won't get Lynn's point, which is exactly what he just said.
From the glimpse we saw there, notice that the viewer was looking at the target from a different angle than the photograph. That's another indicator that they went to the target rather than viewing the picture that's in the envelope.
This viewer is actually here. It's Ron Kuhn. He's a basic student. And this was one of our sessions a couple months ago, maybe 3 months ago. So this photo right here that we're looking at with the longest train in Canada was actually the feedback photo. Michelle's here, and she actually described this area down here at the bottom with the, I don't know, maybe if it's going to let me do that, with the boat. Maybe I can't get quite that. But she actually described this area down here. The tasking, the blind tasking, which nobody saw and nobody got front loading, you know me, this is like a field trip for everybody because we're all learning. And so the target is a location, describe the location. So Ron actually described the location. Seton Lake's obviously kind of a big place, but here's, I'm covering up your names. But here's what he sketched. So he did not describe the feedback photo. He described the location or the site. Take it away, Lynn.
Like I say, that to me is a whole lot more important. And when you think about it, well, it not only shows that they're becoming operational because they're going to the actual target rather than their feedback. It also shows that they're going to go get what's important at the site, no matter what's tasked. Generally, a tasker will task you with what they already know. Well, if all you can view is what they already know, then what good are you? You know, what good have you done? If you can go get the peripheral information, and if you can, they say, okay, this child went missing. And you go and you view a car speeding down the road and can actually get detailed descriptions of the car to where they can go looking, then, you know, you haven't described a child being abducted, you've described what is needed to go find the child. And so many times the detectives will task you with what they already know or what they think they know, and they may be wrong. And so when you can do this, when you can go to a target and find out what's important at the target, hey, that shows that you're getting ready for operations, and that shows that you're going to be a very useful remote viewer.
He also cued himself after his phase 3 sketch, cued himself with purpose, and got a place of power. I thought, how awesome is that?
It's one to put in a book somewhere.
Uh-huh. Actually, I've been using these 2 sketches to teach a fair amount of people as a demonstration. And if they had any doubts, there's not a whole lot they have to say after that. I'm very proud of you, Ron.
That's excellent work.
It is. And everybody who's here today, well, Marco has been coming right along. I've been watching him for a long time. And Michael, Marco, I've been trying to push to get into intermediate because I think his subconscious has been ready for a long time. Michael, I haven't seen much of his sessions, but I'm pretty sure he's one of your students as well. If he's the Michael that I think that I met with Prescott. And but anyway, everybody who's here that I know for a fact, just because I haven't seen Michael, I know for a fact that they have grown. Yep. Oh, I'm so excited. We had a good time. But anyway.
Michael has some sessions that I use as examples too. I usually take his name off, but I mean some sessions that are just, barn burners.
Yep. So, I mean, it is just awesome to see everybody who practices and who listens to our explanations of structure and try this, Just when you get a minute, try this. And everybody is just growing by leaps and bounds. And Michelle's sessions of the salt mine in Poland, they're blowing people away. Just really, I've given a couple presentations, official presentations, and pulled these sketches up and showed them. The summaries and descriptions they get, but you show them these sessions, and people are just completely blown away. All right, what else would we like to talk about? And by the way, thanks again for everybody who's here for sharing, because everybody gets different results in session. And so when you get something and share it, we all learn. By the way, Paul Smith, and I have no idea if he'll ever hear that I said this, but he shared his doorknobbing of his very first session of the donut shop, the infamous donut shop. And that's been a learning curve for people too, because it was an outbounder exercise, and he's kicking the water tower and thumping on it. It's like, man, I blew that. And then they drive by the donut shop on the way back to Fort Meade, and he's like, wait a minute, what's that? And he nailed the donut shop.
Yeah, they did that to me on the practice target was like a Lowe's hardware store.
Mm-hmm.
And so they took me to the hardware store, and in my session I had seen all these rows of shelves that were very close together and had all this stuff on them and had a smell of bakery. And after that, we stopped by a bakery on the way back, and they basically did that just to show me that you can pollute a target pool. And sure enough, I had gotten these narrow shelves with all kinds of junk on it and a bakery smell. So, it's they would pull tricks on us in the unit just to teach us lessons, and they were valuable lessons and well learned too.
And I know that when we sit here on Wednesdays, there's a fair amount of sometimes researching and net surfing, and that feeds into the feedback. But, you know, for us to actually sit and discuss things, I sort of throw that to the wind, because it's more important for us to illustrate, I think, and be able to explain what we can when we can. And just to show you guys, here's another session Russ Evans contributed, and it's a retasking, but this is Right Pat, and his little sketch was, all I did was carve these two little nubbins with the circles on them out and said, tell me more about this sketch. Tell me more about that which you sketched. And he came out with this detailed drawing of, I mean, there are people in here and walkways and paths where the buildings are connected, and then he goes on to describe the inside of the building. And, you know, if I scroll down, here's Miss Janine, since she just happens to be here. So we'll include her. And, well, Miss Jean is not here. But anyway, all right, so much for that. By the way, Alexis sketched this sketch, and it looks like somebody's on their knees, but they're actually standing, in my interpretation. And my mother took one look at this and said, well, that's Dale Guthrie, because he would stand on the playground or wherever we were at school. He was our principal, and that's exactly how he stood. And my mom nailed that. Anyway, all right, what else would we like to talk about?
Marco said he would like to do some police work someday. If you want to do police work, there's some preparation that you should do. By the way, Marco, I'm still hoping to get over there to teach intermediate, but I don't see it in the near future. And the deal still goes that you're getting it, you know, for holding the class. Anyway, I keep hoping. Yeah, I forget. The police work. When you are going for police work, one of the things you want to do, because police will pollute you something terrible, and that is, after you've learned to remote view, then you go through a series of times where you have someone slightly pollute you to the target, and you do the target. And then over a period of many, many, many sessions, you get more and more and more pollution. And like in the military, they would lay a map of Lebanon down with a city circled on it, and they would say, we want to know where the hostage is, you know, and you were to do the session. Well, you can't get a lot more polluted than that. And yet we were able to go past the pollution and find the information. And because police will pollute you terribly, you need to learn how to work in spite of pollution. If you're going to do police work, you also have to learn how to tell when you're being just conned by the police or the detective, okay? So you have to learn when somebody is tasking you with the wrong target. And so what you do is you get someone to help you, and they will pick a target, and then they will pollute you to a wrong target, okay, and see which one you can get. And you have to learn how to get what's important, not what you're always tasked with. And also, if you're going to do police work, you need to slowly, very slowly, condition yourself to blood and guts, murder, mayhem, and all that kind of stuff, because you'll be getting it if you work for the police. So a lot of people say, you know, I want to help bring home missing kids. And so they take basic class, and we have had them then go to their police department and say, I will find your missing kids for you after basic class. And what they find out is that they can sometimes view a missing child who has been murdered, mutilated, raped, and dismembered, and so on. And the experience of it is that they just never remote view again. And you know, police targets are not good targets. They're not happy targets, and so you have to train ahead of time for that. So when people say they want to work for the police, you're talking a lot of practice. You're talking tons and tons and tons of practice, specially designed to get you into police work. And so it's not easy, and it's not easy on the viewer, but you have to be careful. Don't just rush into a police station and say, I'm a remote viewer, I'll solve all your cases for you.
And Michael's mentioning that Pam Coronado, president right at the moment of IRVA, has done a lot of police work. Yes, she's consulted with the FBI. She helped apprehend the sniper in DC. I mean, her work was part of that investigation, and she has Project Search for Hope, that is her nonprofit that she's working cases. And anyway, congratulations, Marco, on your successful resuscitation.
Yes.
And as he said, his subconscious took over. Way to go.
You'll hear a lot of people who are in private planes and small plane crashes who will say that they were coming into the ground, they had no control, they knew they were going to hit the ground, and it was like a second later they were standing about 200 feet away from the plane as it caught fire and everything, and they don't remember anything in between, and yet they standing there without a scratch on them because their subconscious mind took over. One of the things you learn in remote viewing is your subconscious mind is a whole lot smarter than you are and fast. And so you've got to learn to trust it.
And yes, Michael, you may not get any feedback for years, if ever, because they're just too busy. And as I said, if it's something in research or litigation or, a business application, you may not get feedback ever. That's one of the things that you're training for, is so you don't have to have that mind candy for absolutely everything that you do.
Yeah, and a worse scenario than that is that some companies do this, I know, but I'm going to use the CIA as a target because they're the ones I work for the most. But if there's a classified mission and you're tasked to view something on it, I guarantee you they will not give you no feedback. They will lie to you on the feedback. And therefore, if all you can view is your feedback, then you're going to be viewing a lie and you're no use to anybody. Okay. And so once again, you have to learn to go to the target, and you have to learn to work through, in spite of pollution, whether that pollution comes ahead of time or as feedback.
Kind of shoots your trust factor right in the foot.
No, it didn't change my trust in the CIA at all.
Am I laughing on camera? Yeah. Okay, what else would we like to talk about? I have not yet reached to this level where I can smell colors like Lynn wrote in his book. Well, Lynn, I think you only did that once, if I recall.
No, there was a period of time where, right in the beginning, I was learning and learning how to process these perceptions that were coming through. It's called synesthesia, and it is the neatest thing that I think has ever happened to me. I know how lemon sounds, and I know how the color purple tastes, and it's something you can never ever explain to someone. The lemon, I was given a target of a lemon, just a very basic target. You know, I was doing stage 1 and 2, and I got this chord, this musical chord, and what it was the sound of how the lemon pulp taste, the lemon seed taste, and the lemon rind taste. And they make the most beautiful, perfect chord when taken together. And I can never explain to anybody how it sounds, but forever, you know, for the rest of my life, I will know how lemon sounds. And it's really strange, and it's hard to explain to anybody, but it is so neat.
You're so easily entertained.
I
Marco,
like
what? I'm sorry, what?
I like toys.
Yeah, like those rays that you step in and all of that. But Marco he's asking a question, right? IDWOND, and I'm asking, it's a phenomenon. So, synesthesia? That? Okay, let me show you something. Take a little trick here, just for a second. If my links are still working, this is on my website up under video presentations. But here is Daniel Temmet. He had synesthesia, and here's another one, ABC News, prime time.
There's one test they give to some people with synesthesia to see if they really have synesthesia, and it's a article that has 99 S's in it and 1 5, and they're all twisted. They're not, you know, just straight up and down. They're at all different angles. And a person without synesthesia will have to search and search and search for that 5. A person with synesthesia will generally see it as a different color, or it'll hear it as a different sound. And the minute they look at that circle, they point right straight to the 5, and they say that's different.
But he has an Estonian name, he says. So anyway, there's 2 different examples. The one has the Rain Man, who is, you know, a whiz, a savant at math. And then there's a set of twin sisters who, when they play music, they see colors. And there are a couple other examples in there too. Any other questions? Just keeping an eye on the clock. It's 10 after 9. Marco says he'd like to do more operational targets. I did one this year. Hopefully you're keeping up a portfolio for any project managers who might want you to do some sessions for them, so you can show them that you're, what your session results are. And I won't use that database word because Lynn may or may not bring out the wet noodles.
I am all for anybody using the database. You really cannot tell a viewer's strengths and weaknesses or their dependability on anything if you haven't databased their work. And, anecdotal information is worthless.
In operations, if I have a customer who's paying for your work, I need to be able to back you up. I can't just say, hey, my buddy, I got this buddy who's got Saturday free, he can probably do something. It doesn't work that way. You show your stuff and that you're accurate and that you're current and you haven't not remote viewed for 3 years. And it's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to get in on this. Sorry. I mean, if this were in operations and it was resources being deployed, you could be sending a whole bunch of people on a wild goose chase, and the perpetrator gets a head start, maybe get tipped off. You're wasting a lot of people's time. So just make sure that you can show responsibly your work. And I think at the point now where people are starting to get more operational stuff, and a good portfolio with 2 or 3 recent sessions in it doesn't hurt. Just my opinion, but I've been on that soapbox for probably 5 years now. Lynn, can you please explain the stone story again? I don't understand it. It was in your book. That's Marco.
I take it you mean the story stone.
Mm-hmm.
We were tasked in the beginning to with several things that were not known. One, is there anything that can't be viewed? 2, we knew that the Russians were viewing us, and so they wanted to know, is there anything that can stop, that can block remote viewing, and not only block it, but also do something to give the wrong answer, so that instead of them feeling blocked, they'll just get the wrong information all the time. And so we did some work on that, and we found a way to block a location. And there is a location that anytime you view it, you're going to get another location, because if you picture the matrix, we switch places with 2 locations in the matrix. So when you view the one that's tasked, you're going to get the other one. And the other one is something that is so obscure and so far gone, that is so far out in the sticks that nobody's ever going to task you with it anyway, because absolutely of no interest whatever. And so so they can task you with this secure facility, and you're going to view the other target. So location. There were, I had done a lot of top secret classified work before coming to the unit, and we wanted to see if anybody could block information in somebody's mind to keep people from getting it. And so we found a way to absolutely just block that information, not replace it with some other information, but block it. As far as the story stone goes, we had a location that we protected. We had a person that we protected, that being part of the information in my mind that's classified. And we wanted a thing. And that thing there is this stone. It's a carved stone that I know the history of, and I know the history of it thoroughly. It's fully researched and all. And so we protected the history of that stone. Now, rather than protecting the stone itself, you can view the stone, and it's pictured in the book, I think. And you can view the stone and get accurate view of it. But the history of the stone is not viewable. And it's the one where we decided that we would teach an object how to give you bad information and pollute your session. And so what happens with the story stone is that as you view it, you'll get the stone. But if you go into the history of it, you will start getting garbage, and that will stop most people. If you do continue, you'll get the giggles. You'll just, you'll say, Brown, and you'll just start giggling in your session. And if you go on past that, that stops 99% of the other people, And if you do go on past that, all of a sudden you'll have a beautiful, wonderful session that just flows, and you get tremendous information, just easy as it can be, and it's all garbage. None of it's true. And so what happens is the stone creates these stories. We have no idea how it happens, and the stories will always be different. You can view the history of the story stone 20 times, and you'll get 20 different stories. And so anyway, the story stone is the thing. The history of the story stone is the thing that we protected. When we were first doing the location, we just switched locations in the matrix. When we got to the person, we decided we don't want to, make this person, me, impossible to view because maybe health problems along the way and all that. I'll need somebody to help me with my health. But we decided, okay, we're going to take certain things. When it came to the thing, that is the story stone, we decided, okay, we're going to make this stone viewable except for one single facet of this stone, and that is its history. And so anyway, that's the story stone. And if you want to have a fun session, you want to do some giggling, task yourself with the story stone and then with the history of it. And if you stick all the way through that, oh, listen, you'll have a session that is just like chocolate and velvet. I mean, just works like you wouldn't believe. And the information is going to be all garbage, but man, it'll feel like a good session. So anyway, that's the history. That's the question about the story stone.
He's asking how he should task himself.
Task yourself with the story stone. The target is the story stone. Describe it. Then when you get the story stone, look in the book, you'll see the picture, and there's your feedback, and then task yourself with the history of the story stone. So who created it? Where was it created? What happened to it after it was created? What is the history? What events has it been involved in, and everything else? And just
could he give himself move commands in session to do this as well?
That's one of the things we teach is how to be your own monitor. Yeah. If you want, well, like when you go through stage 1, your monitor would say, okay, there may be more gestalts at the site. Do you want the target again? You do want the coordinates again. What's to keep you in session from saying, there may be more gestalts at the site. Would I like the coordinates again? And by the same token, you say, a monitor would say, okay, move to the history and describe. and move back 10 years and describe, move forward 20 years and describe. Well, what's to keep you from doing that? You can be your own manager. Did that help?
It always helps. And like I said, I know we're being a little impromptu here tonight, but show you another. See if I can get anything here. They haven't taken my site down because it was still up for approval. Great. Well, maybe if I do that.
By the way, on
Yeah.
the Story Stone,
Yeah.
if anybody gets the Story Stone's history, I will tell them that they're right. Okay, so I will give them feedback, but I don't know how many people I've had saying, okay, well, what of that did I get? What of it that I told you? What is right and what is wrong? No, I'm not going to let people wheedle the information out of me a couple of perceptions at a time. So if you get it right, I'll tell you that you're right and tell you about it. So far, I've never had to give feedback on the history of the Story Stone.
So far Meetup has let me live, I'll put it that way. I did this once and they didn't like it. They also don't have a whole lot of template stuff to work with, so but I wanted to say here is another session right here that teaches not just to view the feedback photo, but you're moving around the site, and this was the salt mine in Poland. So here is one feedback image and a sketch of the balcony, and another feedback image. It's got the altar, because this is also a cathedral underneath, and the altar with flags, and here is the border and the rim and the flag, and it shows where the viewer was. There's a lot of stuff at this location, and here is a pond or a body of water. And so I had some debunkers who were all about James Randi and how, the $1 million challenge. And of course, Psi can't be real because otherwise, somebody be a millionaire right now. But they wanted to know if I could view numbers and colors. And so I said, well, and they were all about, what I want to say, researching. I said, well, I'll tell you what, if you let me teach you a few things, you'll research better. Well, they liked that. And so I proceeded on to say, okay, you're essentially at, I didn't exactly say this, but I was thinking it, when you were watching Sesame Street, and, we've got the characters going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and I'm sorry y'all got to hear me sing right there, but that's where this guy was in his expectations, and it's how we're set up to fail, and they don't understand why we refuse to participate. So I show them, some of these photos, and I say, okay, so you're expecting me to do Elmo shapes and colors when I'm teaching people to do this. And it pretty much just blows them away. And this is in a forum that's got a couple of thousand people in it. And so just to be able to share some of these has been just a huge opportunity for teaching. And it really is reaching thousands of people. And if nothing else, they're a little less resistant. It doesn't mean that they chomp on it and believe absolutely everything that we want to tell them. But it is really making a difference out there, a little bit at a time. And I thank everybody here for sharing their stuff, because you're making a difference. You really are. And maybe I'll do a better job with these graphics someday, but I have to work with their template, and it's pretty limited. Ugh. So someplace around here I get to log out. Okay. So what else would we like to talk about?
I would like to talk about summaries.
Okay.
We had a Japanese television crew here, and Paul Smith and I, this was last week, Paul Smith and I did sessions. What they did, they had a parapsychological group in Tokyo select 12 targets and put them in sealed envelopes. And then they had a 12-sided die here, and Paul monitored me first, and I did the session. And they just rolled the die. A 7 came up, and so I said, okay, my target number is target number 7, and I wrote 7 and ideogram and was off and running. And then Paul did the same. Each one of us did 2 targets. And they said, okay, when we get back, we'll take your session and we'll let somebody read it, and then they'll look at the 12 targets and see which one they think you described. And that's the way it was done in the laboratories at Stanford, and that's the way it's done in most of the research laboratories. Well, the problem with that is that you're asking for somebody's opinion, and you write one thing. You know how the English language is. You can say one thing and somebody will hear something else. And you write down one thing, and somebody reading it, somebody comes in from the hallway, reads it, they read the very first thing, and that sets their mind to whatever was first. In a remote viewing session, stage 1, I mean, you're just feeling your way around the universe. Stage 2, you're getting all kinds of garbage, and you're getting more and more sight contact. Stage 3, you're getting better, better, better. And so I told them, if you compare the targets against the session, you're comparing it against good stuff and garbage. But if the viewer will write a summary at the end when they have good sight contact, then you can take the target and compare it with the summary, because by that time the viewer's on target and knows what they're doing. Okay, and so you get more accuracy. Also, you can compare the different perceptions one at a time to the target, and you can actually come up with a data score that gives an accuracy down to the 100th% of accuracy. And Paul chimed in at that point, and he said yes. And if you take like my session and compare it perception by perception to each of the 12 targets, then you can say, oh, look, he got the highest score on target number or whatever. That must be the one he was viewing. And so therefore you can pick it out. There's no opinion, there's anything like that. But you never show your session to anyone, because if you do, you're showing them good stuff mixed with garbage. Always,
unless it's the analyst.
Yeah, always write a summary. Every time you do a session, you know, I've got a cartoon of a kid sitting on the pot and says, okay, it's all over now but the paperwork. And you've got to, you've got to finish the session and then do a summary, because the summary will have the information for when you're, finally on target. And so always write a summary. It doesn't take that long. It's not that hard. And I know it's added paperwork, but listen, you can't know your own abilities unless you do. And with that, I'll get off my soapbox and quit preaching.
Well, I, for one, appreciate every little preachy thing you have to say. Thank you.
Well, that's 20, close to 30 years of learning things the hard way, and
Yep.
having a session shown and somebody will take your first impression and say, and judge the rest of your session by it, when that first impression was garbage, and they say, oh, look, you're wrong, when you may have gotten 100%.
Yep.
Can I say something, Teresa? Richie here.
Yes, sir, you may.
Yeah, these talks and these little meetings that you arrange are so important, because when we do our course and we're reading our manual, to get the background information from Lynn or from yourself or from anybody else that can give information about what has happened in the past and what you can do for the future, it just when you read your manual and again, you get to understand it a little bit more, because every time you do a target, you're learning so much more, and you're learning so much more about yourselves. So I'm really enjoying this conversation tonight. So thank you both for doing this.
You're welcome. It sort of takes it from a black and white flat pixel paper with some words, which is your manual, and inflates it into 3D.
Yeah, I'm just going to say something, and I could be wrong in what I'm saying, but sometimes when I'm practicing a target, I get the ambience feeling when I'm doing my perceptions of the place or of the person or whatever. Would that be right, Lynn, that you'd actually get that feeling?
Yeah, that's one of the perceptions you need to learn how to get, is the ambiance of the other person. You have to learn the tools that are necessary to keep those feelings as the property of the other person, so that you don't start taking them on to yourself. That's very dangerous. I've been some great reports on the operational sessions you've been doing, and listen, I keep hearing people say, "Man, we've got an ace right here." So keep up the good work.
Yeah. Can I just ask you one more question, Lynn? Because I'm in work. I have to start to get back to work now.
Yeah.
I sent you an email a few days ago. Did you see it?
No.
About what I'm going to be doing in December. A few dates involved.
Oh yeah.
I resent it to, yeah.
Listen, I'll be offended if you don't drop by.
Yeah, I just made, because I'm going to book flights and stuff like that, so I was just making sure you were going to be around anyway. So
doors open and the coffee's on.
Okay, I'll talk to you soon. I'm going to have to go back to work here, or my paycheck will be docked. But thanks again. It's really informative. I love this because I want to understand more and more about what we're doing. We can do all the practice and all that, but it's that the backbone of remote viewing, of understanding the subconscious and how powerful it is, and so I just think this is brilliant. Thanks again.
Thank you.
So I say good night to you. Bye.
Good night.
And
good morning.
Yeah.
Marco has a couple of questions. It says, it's nice when you write a summary and it nails the target. And he's asking, Lynn, where do you see CRV 20 years from now?
You may not like the answer to this. I haven't done the viewing on the future of CRV lately, and things change over time. The future is not what it used to be, but back early on, I was doing every now and then a session on finding out where remote viewing was going, And what I kept getting was that there will come a time when remote viewers become so accurate that they really start scaring people, and preachers will start preaching against them, and teachers will start teaching against them, and so on. And the best remote viewers will very quietly be folded back into the government, and what goes around will come around, and the remote viewing fad will slowly just sort of dissolve into something else, and the militaries will stop having dead soldiers, the police will stop having dead cops, criminals will be cleared off the street 10 times better, and it'll all be done very quietly, and nobody will know that remote viewers are behind it. So that's what I used to get. Now that it's becoming more and more public, I don't know if that's going to be true. I haven't done a session on it lately. But anyway, that's what I used to see. And like I say, the future can change. And 20 years from now, I hope there's this old gray-headed old geezer called Lynn Buchanan still remote viewing.
I think he will be. Well, unless anybody has any burning last minute, I think I'm possibly going to call it a night. I have a couple things to do if y'all don't mind. Look and see if any hands go up for one question. Go ahead, Marco. I took your mic off if you just want to talk. To do open search session. I need to know what you mean by that.
Open search is a term that was used in the military for just view a session and we'll see if anything pops up that looks like feedback.
I was going to say, does that mean we do the session and then we choose feedback after?
Yeah, basically. Now, there's another type of open search session where parameters would be set, and these are, this is where Paul got the start, the attack on the start. This is where I got the Chernobyl meltdown and so on. And so putting some basic parameters on it really helps when you do an open search session. An open search session would be something like describe the major news event to be on the front page of the paper between now and next Monday. Okay, so that gets you away from, your neighbor kicking his dog, your, little piddling things, and it sets a parameter for your open search. News headlines, something like that. Doing it that way, or describe the picture that's going to be on the next issue of some magazine, something like that. So basically what you're doing is you're doing a target that is a future target that does not yet even exist. And so that's really the type of open search target that is most productive. If you just sit down and do a session and wait for some kind of feedback that looks like, oh, that matches my session, then you really haven't done that much good. Is it good training? Yeah, it's very good training. It also is good training for future work too. It teaches you a lot about moving forward in time in your remote viewing sessions. Almost all the targets you're going to get as a remote viewing target are things that have happened in the past or things that are happening now. But doing an open search thing like that will help you learn to go forward in time and do predictive work.
I don't know if you were wanting us to do one, Marco, on a Wednesday, but I have all the targets chosen for the rest of the year. So I don't know if that's what you meant, but I think that for us to do it, it'll probably be January. So, you don't have to stick with my timetable. Like Lynn just said, you can do it whenever you like.
Yeah, and setting parameters can be something as simple as the next time I see such and such a person, describe what they're going to be wearing. And maybe you won't see them for another week. And so that's something that does not now exist. So it's an open search, and yet it's an open search toward a future event.
Okay, I'll try to do that in January, but I'm sorry, I've got them all picked before then. Unless we tack one on the end of December when I sort of decided we could take a break, but it's a great idea though. Okay, folks, it's 9:45, and I think I'm gonna probably have to wrap it up. So thank you for coming, and good night to you too. And I think that, for not having a structured target discussion tonight, we learned a lot of stuff. Appreciate you, Lynn.
I hope it helped.
It definitely did. So with that, I'm going to say goodnight, Gracie.
Night, Maud.
See you guys in a couple of weeks. Yeah, figure out how I get out of this from this. We're not recording now, so